First contact gone wrong. The Meridian Research Station hung like a jewel against the amber rings of HD 459, its gleaming solar arrays catching the light of the distant star. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes reflecting the cosmic vista before her. After 15 years of deep space research, the station had become more than just humanity's furthest outpost. It was home to 300 of Earth's brightest minds and their families. "Mom, come look at this." 10-year-old Maya pressed her tablet against the reinforced window, her latest stellar simulation dancing across the screen. Sarah smiled, remembering why they'd chosen this life on the edge of known space. Here, among the stars, they were pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, while building a community that transcended old Earth divisions. The station's alert system shattered the moment. A single tone, then another, building into a desperate chorus that Sarah hadn't heard outside of drills. But this was different. The auxiliary displays were showing something massive dropping out of faster-than-light travel, not just one signature but dozens. Dr. Chen to the command center immediately. Captain Rodriguez's voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. "This is not a drill." Sarah grabbed Maya's hand, her heart pounding. "Come on, sweetie. We need to get to the safe zone." The research station had protocols for first contact scenarios. They'd all trained for this possibility. But as she hurried through the corridors, the growing sense of wrongness made her skin crawl. The first impact rocked the station before they reached the shelter. Maya screamed as they were thrown against a wall, the lights flickering ominously. Through the nearest viewport, Sarah caught a glimpse of their visitors, sleek, obsidian vessels that moved with impossible grace, their hulls adorned with patterns that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. "This is Captain Rodriguez to all personnel. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. The unknown vessels are not responding to any attempts at communication. All civilians to emergency shelters immediately." The second blast took out the primary power core. Emergency lighting bathed the corridors in blood red as Sarah and Maya finally reached the shelter. Inside, dozens of families huddled together, children crying, parents trying to maintain calm. Dr. James Walsh, the station's chief physicist, was attempting to boost the emergency transmitter signal. "They're methodically targeting our critical systems," he reported grimly. "These aren't random attacks. They know exactly where to hit us." The station's structural integrity alarms began to wail. Through the shelter's small window, Sarah watched in horror as one of the alien vessels positioned itself directly outside the research wing, where her team had been studying quantum communications. A beam of intense purple energy lanced out, and that entire section of the station simply ceased to exist. "The message has to get through," Dr. Walsh muttered, his fingers flying over the controls. "Earth needs to know what happened here." Sarah held Maya close as the shelter's walls groaned under another impact. On the emergency screens, they could see sections of the station being systematically destroyed. The aliens weren't just attacking. They were executing a carefully planned extinction, making sure nothing and no one would survive. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Walsh announced, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "This is Meridian Station. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. They show no interest in communication or surrender. They err." He paused, swallowing hard. "They are killing everyone. Sending all sensor data now. Don't let us be forgotten. Don't let them." The transmission cut off as another blast rocked the station. Atmosphere began venting from multiple breaches, and the emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Sarah looked down at Maya, her daughter's face tear-streaked but brave. Around them, other parents held their children, partners clasped hands, colleagues who'd become family over the years stood together in their final moments. The last thing Sarah saw was one of the alien ships positioning itself directly outside their shelter, its weapon ports glowing with that terrible purple energy. In that moment, she understood with perfect clarity that these beings hadn't come to conquer or subjugate. They'd come to erase, to eliminate what they saw as an infestation at the edges of their space. As the shelter's walls began to buckle, Sarah closed her eyes and held Maya tighter. Her last thought wasn't of fear or anger, but of hope. Hope that their message had gotten through. Hope that Earth would understand what had happened here, and hope that humanity would make sure this could never happen again. The shelter's walls failed, and the void claimed them all. The message did get through. Every second of sensor data, every scream, every moment of the massacre was captured and transmitted to Earth. When it arrived, it sparked something in humanity that had laid dormant for generations, a terrible resolve that would reshape the galaxy and teach their attackers the true meaning of extinction. The message home. The message from Meridian Station arrived at Earth's Deep Space Communications Array at 3:47 UTC. Within minutes, the entire global defense network went into high alert. Admiral Sarah Harrison stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center, watching the sensor logs play out on the massive holographic display. Her hands gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. 300 lives. Civilians. Children. Researchers who had ventured into the depths of space, not for conquest, but for knowledge. The footage played again and again. The methodical destruction, the precise targeting of critical systems, the final moments of the shelter. The purple energy weapons that had torn through the station's hull like paper haunted every frame. "Ma'am," her aide spoke softly, "the Security Council is assembling. They're requesting your presence." The council chamber was silent as Harrison entered. Representatives from every major nation sat around the circular table, their faces illuminated by the same horrific footage that had been playing in the command center. What they were watching wasn't just an attack. It was an execution, carried out with cold precision against people who had no means to defend themselves. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harrison's voice cut through the silence, "what you're seeing is not the full story." She pressed a control, and new data streams appeared alongside the attack footage. For the past 50 years, while we've presented ourselves to the galaxy as a peaceful, technologically developing species, we've been preparing. Project Sentinel has produced technologies that we've kept hidden, waiting for a moment we hoped would never come. The displays shifted to show massive shipyards concealed within Mercury's orbit, vast fleets hidden in the asteroid belt, and weapons systems that made the aliens' purple energy beams look like children's toys. The council members leaned forward, their expressions moving from shock to understanding. "We've maintained this facade of technological innocence deliberately," Harrison continued. "Our deep space research stations, including Meridian, were genuine in their scientific mission. But they also served as an early warning network, a tripwire to reveal any species that would treat us as prey rather than equals." The Chinese representative spoke first, her voice tight with controlled anger. "These aliens, they clearly believed they were dealing with a primitive species, one that could be exterminated without consequence." "Precisely." Harrison brought up new tactical displays. "We have ships that can match their maneuverability, weapons that can penetrate their defenses, and manufacturing capabilities that they cannot imagine." What they saw as an isolated research station was actually our furthest early warning post. And now, thanks to the sacrifice of the Meridian crew, we have complete tactical data on their capabilities. The Russian representative leaned forward. "You're suggesting we not only have the means to fight back, but to win." "I'm suggesting more than that." Harrison's eyes were cold. "I'm suggesting we show them, and any other species watching, exactly what happens when you mistake humanity's peaceful intentions for weakness. When you murder our children and expect no repercussions." The council chamber erupted in discussion, but the outcome was never in doubt. Within hours, Project Sentinel was fully activated. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system hummed to life, and vessels that had never seen actual combat began powering up their systems. In her private office after the meeting, Harrison reviewed the crew manifest for the Meridian Station one last time. Her eyes lingered on the image of Dr. Sarah Chen and her daughter Maya. The aliens had thought they were erasing an insignificant human presence from their space. Instead, they had awakened something they couldn't possibly understand. The first wave of the response fleet would launch within 24 hours. The vessels, sleek and deadly, represented the true face of human military technology, not the outdated defense systems the Meridian Station had possessed. Their weapons had been designed with one purpose: to ensure that any species that chose to attack humanity would not survive to regret their mistake. As Harrison watched the fleet preparations through her window, she thought about the message they would be sending, not just to these specific aliens, but to the galaxy at large. Humanity had hidden its strength, played the role of the peaceful newcomer to galactic society. That deception had cost 300 lives on Meridian Station. There would not be a second such sacrifice. The response fleet's name appeared on her display: Operation Stormfront. It was time to show the galaxy that humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness, and those who mistook one for the other would learn their error far too late to correct it. Operation Stormfront. The UES Nemesis emerged from its hidden dock within Ceres, its crystalline hull absorbing rather than reflecting the distant sunlight. Captain Michael Torres stood on the bridge, watching as hundreds of similar vessels took formation around his flagship. Each ship represented decades of secret development, technologies that humanity had kept hidden, while presenting a peaceful face to the stars. "All vessels report ready, sir," his XO, Commander Diana Way, announced. "The targeting data from Meridian Station has been distributed to the entire fleet. We know exactly what we're up against." Torres nodded, his dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. The alien vessels had demonstrated remarkable technology in their attack on Meridian, but they'd also revealed critical weaknesses. Their purple energy weapons, while devastating against civilian infrastructure, had specific emission patterns that could be tracked and countered. More importantly, they had shown their true nature: a species that attacked without warning, that killed civilians without hesitation. "Signal the fleet," Torres ordered. "Begin Operation Stormfront." The human armada moved as one, their quantum drives spinning up in perfect synchronization. These weren't the primitive fusion engines that powered civilian ships. These were the true fruits of human ingenuity, drives that could cross light years in hours rather than decades. As they accelerated past Jupiter's orbit, Torres reviewed the mission parameters one final time. Their target was the aliens' home system, identified through backtracing their attack fleet's quantum wake. Intelligence suggested a highly advanced civilization, one that had likely conquered or eliminated other species before encountering humanity. "They believe they're the apex predators of this sector," White commented, studying the same data. Their attack pattern at Meridian showed complete confidence, no concern for counterattack or reprisal. "A fatal mistake," Torres replied. "Believing that technological superiority equals absolute power. Believing that a species' peaceful nature indicates their military capability." He paused, watching the fleet's formation tighten as they prepared for the first quantum jump. They're about to learn otherwise. The jump itself was silent, a moment of impossible mathematics as hundreds of ships slipped between the fabric of space-time. When they emerged, they were deep in alien territory. The first sign that humanity's technological facade had worked came immediately. There were no border defenses, no early warning systems. Why would there be? The aliens believed they had attacked a primitive species incapable of striking back. "Multiple contacts," Way reported. "Civilian vessels, mainly. They're broadcasting some kind of identification signal." "Ignore them," Torres ordered. "We're not here for civilians. Plot a direct course to their homeworld. Let's show them the same courtesy they showed Meridian Station." The fleet accelerated again, passing through system after system. Occasionally, they encountered military vessels, but these were quickly neutralized by weapons that operated on principles the aliens had never seen. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through shields, gravity lances that could tear ships apart at the atomic level. As they approached the alien homeworld, they finally encountered serious resistance. A defensive fleet twice the size of the human armada moved to intercept them. their purple energy weapons charging. They're broadcasting a message, Wei announced. Universal translators are working on it. They're demanding to know who we are and how we reached their core systems. Torres smiled grimly. Show them. The UES Nemesis's hull shifted, the crystalline surface becoming transparent to reveal the Earth insignia beneath. On every human ship, the same transformation occurred. The aliens' transmission cut off mid-sentence. They recognize us now, Wei said quietly. They're powering up their weapons. Too late, Torres replied. All ships, execute combat pattern Alpha. Show them what humanity has been hiding all these years. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. The aliens' technology, so devastating against an unarmed research station, proved ineffective against humanity's true military capabilities. Their purple energy beams splashed harmlessly against quantum shields. Their advanced maneuvers were predicted and countered by AI systems that had been studying their tactics since Meridian. From the bridge of the Nemesis, Torres watched as the alien fleet was systematically dismantled. Each ship was disabled with surgical precision, their crews given no chance to escape, just as they had given no chance to the families on Meridian Station. The path to their homeworld is clear, Wei reported. Their orbital defenses are activating, but they're based on the same technology we've already defeated. Torres nodded, thinking of the children who had died on Meridian, of Dr. Chen holding her daughter in their final moments. Begin the approach. It's time they learned the cost of mistaking humanity's restraint for weakness. The price of arrogance. The alien homeworld hung before them, a jewel of purple oceans and crystalline cities that spiraled into the skies. Captain Torres stood at the viewport of the UES Nemesis, watching as panic spread through the alien civilization. Their orbital defense grid, once thought impenetrable, lay in ruins around them, shattered by weapons they hadn't believed possible. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Commander Wei reported, her voice steady. They're begging for mercy, claiming they didn't know who we were, that the attack on Meridian was a mistake. Torres turned from the viewport, his expression hardened by memories of the station's final transmission. Play their message on the main screen. Everyone should hear this. The alien leader appeared, their iridescent scales dulled with fear. Please, the translation matrix rendered their pleading in flat, emotionless English. We did not understand. We thought you were primitive colonists, expanding where you did not belong. We offer reparations, technology, anything you desire. Just spare our world. Sensor analysis complete, Wei interrupted. Their civilization spans this entire continent. Population centers are concentrated in those crystalline structures. Their technology level is impressive, but focused entirely on offense. Their defensive capabilities are minimal. They never expected to need them. Torres nodded slowly. They built their empire on the assumption that they would always be the ones attacking, never defending. Send them our response. The message was simple. Footage from Meridian Station. The systematic destruction. The terrified families in the shelter. Dr. Chen holding her daughter as the walls failed. No words were needed. The aliens watched in growing horror as their actions were played back to them. Their response incoming, Wei announced. They say they didn't know there were children. That they would never have. She trailed off, disgust evident in her voice. But they did know, Torres replied quietly. The station broadcast its civilian status on all frequencies. They knew exactly what they were destroying. He straightened, addressing the bridge crew. Begin the operation. Show them the same mercy they showed Meridian. The human fleet moved with terrible precision. Their weapons weren't designed for simple destruction. They were engineered to dismantle, to deconstruct with absolute efficiency. The crystalline cities began to fall, not in explosions of fire and death, but in waves of absolute molecular dissolution. From their ships, the human forces watched as the alien civilization crumbled. Buildings that had stood for millennia dissolved into their component atoms. Technology that had made them feel invincible proved useless against humanity's quantum weaponry. The purple oceans boiled away, leaving nothing but bare rock beneath. "Sir," Wei's voice was barely a whisper. "They're trying to evacuate. Millions of civilian ships are attempting to leave the surface." Torres thought of Maya Chen's last moments, of the families who had died together in Meridian's shelter. "No survivors," he ordered. They chose this when they decided that peaceful meant weak, that scientific meant defenseless. The galaxy will learn from their mistake. The evacuation ships never made it to orbit. They dissolved like everything else, their occupants joining the atomic dust that had once been their civilization. It wasn't war, it was extinction, delivered with the same clinical precision they had shown at Meridian. Hours later, when it was done, Torres stood before the tactical display showing their handiwork. Where a thriving civilization had been, there was now only a dead world, its surface scoured down to the bedrock. The few surviving alien ships in nearby systems would carry the message. Humanity's peaceful nature was a choice, not a weakness. "Send the final message," Torres commanded. "Let all who receive it understand what happened here." The broadcast went out on all frequencies in all known languages. This was the price of arrogance. This was the cost of believing that peaceful meant weak. We are humanity. We chose to explore the stars in peace, to share knowledge rather than conquest. You mistook that choice for weakness. You will not live to make that mistake again. As the fleet prepared to return home, Torres received one final report. Among the alien databases they'd captured was evidence of other species they had eliminated, other civilizations they had deemed primitive and erased. Meridian Station had not been their first act of genocide, but Torres allowed himself a grim smile knowing it had been their last. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Our work here is done." Behind them, the dead world hung in space, a monument to the price of underestimating humanity. The galaxy would remember this lesson, written in the ashes of an extinct civilization. Humanity's peace was a gift, not a weakness, and those who mistook one for the other would not survive to repeat their error. A new dawn. 5 years after Operation Stormfront, Admiral Sarah Harrison stood before the newly constructed Meridian Memorial on Earth. The structure rose like a crystalline flame into the sky, its transparent walls containing holographic images of each life lost at the research station. At night, it projected their names among the stars they had died exploring. "We gather here," she addressed the assembled crowd, "not to celebrate victory, but to remember why it was necessary." The faces of Dr. Sarah Chen and Maya floated past, forever preserved in the memorial's eternal display. The galaxy has changed since that day. Humanity's place in it has changed. But we must never forget the price paid for that change. In the years following the extinction of the Karnthar civilization, as the aliens had called themselves, humanity's true nature had become known throughout the galaxy. The facade of the primitive, purely scientific species had been dropped, revealing the full extent of human technological advancement. Other alien civilizations had responded with a mixture of fear and respect. The quantum drives, the molecular dissolution weapons, the crystalline ships that could absorb any energy weapon, technologies that humanity had kept hidden, while presenting a peaceful face to the stars. The message was clear. Humanity's peaceful exploration of space had been a choice, not a limitation. In orbit above Earth, the UES Nemesis had been transformed into a museum ship, a reminder of the terrible power humanity hoped never to use again. Captain Torres, now Fleet Admiral Torres, occasionally visited to stand on its silent bridge, remembering the day they had delivered judgment to an entire civilization. "The memorial serves another purpose," Harrison continued, gesturing to the diplomatic section where representatives from 24 alien species sat. "It reminds us, and our galactic neighbors, that peace is not weakness, that the choice to extend friendship does not mean we cannot defend ourselves." The evidence recovered from the Carnthar databases had revealed a pattern of systematic genocide against species they had deemed inferior. Meridian Station had not been their first target, but it had been their last. The graves of their previous victims had been found, civilizations erased before they could reach the stars. Humanity had not just avenged itself, it had ended a cycle of extinction that had persisted for millennia. "We continue to explore," Harrison said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "Our ships still venture into the unknown, seeking knowledge and understanding. But they go protected now, not by hidden weapons, but by the open knowledge of what humanity is capable of when provoked." The diplomatic implications had been far-reaching. Species that had once viewed Earth as a primitive backwater now sought alliances. Trade agreements were signed, cultural exchanges begun. Humanity's technological advances, no longer hidden, became the foundation for new partnerships. "The Meridian Science Academy opens next month," Harrison announced, indicating the massive complex behind the memorial. "Students from Earth and a dozen alien worlds will study together, sharing knowledge and understanding. This is the legacy we choose to build from tragedy, not just the power to defend ourselves, but the wisdom to forge a better future." In the years since Operation Stormfront, no alien species had attacked a human settlement. The dead world that had once been the Carnthar homeworld served as a stark reminder of the consequences. But more importantly, the new partnerships formed in the aftermath showed a different path forward. Dr. Chen once wrote that the purpose of science was to build bridges between worlds, Harrison concluded, touching the memorial's crystalline surface where the researcher's image floated. "She died believing in that mission. Today, we honor her vision. We extend our hands in friendship to the galaxy, not from weakness, but from strength. And we remember always that peace is a choice made by those strong enough to defend it." As the ceremony ended, Harrison watched the sun set behind the memorial. The holographic images of the Meridian crew seemed to dance among the first visible stars, their sacrifice now part of humanity's transition from hidden power to open guardian of galactic peace. In deep space, human ships still patrolled the frontiers, their crystalline hulls no longer concealing their true nature. They carried weapons that could unmake worlds, but they also carried scientists, explorers, and diplomats. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity's power, but more importantly, it had learned to value humanity's friendship. The legacy of Meridian Station, written first in tragedy and then in terrible vengeance, had finally found its true form, a new dawn of understanding between species, built on the foundation of mutual respect and the knowledge that humanity's peaceful nature was its greatest strength, not its weakness.